So this is going to talk you through our comic creation process that we're going to be working on for the next several weeks. So after you have your brainstorming done and you have your plot figured out and charted out, you're going to start with your rough drafts. So whether you're doing this digitally or on paper, you're going to start by picking out some different layouts of panels that you want, and you're really just very lightly sketching out your ideas. It's just to make sure that you have space on the page for everything that you want. You need to make sure that you leave space for text boxes, characters, speech bubbles, and you want to also make sure that things are in a good order here, that things are going to be read in the way that you want them to. Remember, your comic should not be shorter than 2 pages. It has to be a complete story, a beginning, middle, and end, and it's really hard to do that on less than 2 pages. So you can see here, I have like a text box, I have some speech bubbles. This one I'm going to want to be careful of. If I want them to read it this way, I might want to shift things around if I want to read it this way. I have space for my characters, I have some action planned out, and I have space for my speech bubbles. Just remember, don't go too hard on your rough draft. Everybody wants to just start drawing the way it's going to be in the end, but you have to kind of lay things out first or you're going to kind of trip yourself up. Don't worry about details, don't worry about background, you're just spacing things out. Make sure that you cover all those points from your plot chart and that you have room for text boxes to explain what's going on. The next part is your rough draft, okay? So now you're going to start actually drawing things out. You're going to make sure that your speech boxes are big enough to actually have words in them, but you're not putting your words in yet. We're going to do a script along with our rough draft so that we can check our words before they go in our comic so that we don't ruin our comic. We want to think about all those things that we've been practicing as we've been learning about comics. So foreground and background, character pose, look at your speech bubbles and see what you want them to say. Think about that onomatopoeia. Again, do not put words in your rough draft. Put them on your script because you're going to turn in those 2 things together. As you go through your rough draft, you might need to move things around or change them. So for example, the characters in my first 2 panels became much smaller so I could fit in bigger speech bubbles because I had more that I wanted them to be able to say. So be really... Again, don't get too attached to your rough draft because really your rough draft is where things come to life and where you start solidifying things. Your rough draft is just to lay things out. As you are working on your rough draft, side by side with that, you're doing a script. This is basically so, first of all, when I look at this, I can say, hey, this doesn't make sense, or you need to rewrite this, or, you need to change the way your bubbles are so that it makes sense or that they can fit. But you're going panel by panel and explaining what's going to be in what. So my panel 1, I have a text box that says, meanwhile on the bridge. I have a speech bubble that says, you dare show your face here after you betrayed me after I killed Snoke. So you can see, like, panel 1, here's my text box, here's my speech bubble, and then here's these things, right? So this is what your script will look like. You can do it on a piece of paper, you can do it on a doc, whatever, but don't put words on your rough draft until this is approved. So, what you're going to be turning in, not on 11/8, the correct date is going to be on the information sheet, but your rough draft alongside with your script. So this is what I would turn in. I would have my pages with my drawings, and then I have my script next to it so that everything can be approved before I start putting it in and finalizing everything. So then we go through and we have the ink draft. So basically, you're going to go over everything in pen, make it permanent and bold and show up. You're going to put all your words in so that you can make sure that things fit. You can see here that, like, I had to make my speech bubbles a little bit bigger so that I could fit all my words in. And it may not exactly go over your pencil lines, and that's totally fine. If we get to come back, I have pens that you can use. If not, you're just going to have to find a blue or black pen that you can go over things with. Or if you're doing this digitally, you might just like make your lines darker and bolder and more clear. Please make sure you give yourself plenty of space to write. People always try to cram all this writing into little tiny speech bubbles, and then I can't read it, and that hurts your score in the end because you have to be able to read the speech bubbles to understand the story and understand what's going on. After you have everything inked, you go back and you erase your pencil lines, you make sure everything's totally clear, and then you get to do kind of some of the extra fun stuff. So you get to do a cover page with a title and your name. You can go in and add backgrounds, you can go in and add color, you can go in and make it really nice, assuming that you have time, right? So then, again, this is not the right date. The right date is going to be on your final version, but there's the completed version. So I went through and I colored and I added in, I made sure that things looked nice, and then that would be my final version. That would be our steps for comic creation.